Hello. This is the Urban Surfer, Glenn T. You are listening to another episode of Riding the Wave. Thank you again for tuning in. For those who are trying to look for me, you can find me on iTunes, Stitcher, Podbean, or SoundCloud. Also, you can catch me on YouTube and Spreaker. If you want to contact me, reach out to me at rtw.podcast. That is my Facebook. Gmail, ridingthewave.podcast@gmail.com, and not to forget Twitter at Glenn_town. So hopefully you guys had a great holiday. You got everything that you wanted, whether you did or didn't. Hopefully you guys gave back, did a little something with your time that was productive. It was safe, sound. You guys are back to normal for a few more days before the New Year's. Just wanted to bring you to today's topic. Hopefully everybody out there again is doing well. Today's topic is jumping to conclusions. And we do it more than we realize. We do it much more than we realize. Jumping to conclusions. What do you guys think about that? Again, you are listening to Riding the Wave. This is the Urban Surfer, Glenn T. Just want to mention these perceptions are my own. Again, these are my realities, my perceptions, my opinions. My only mission is to change one mind a day in a positive way. If I've done that, I've done my job. Otherwise, it's back to the drawing board. So again, today's topic is jumping to conclusions. How many of us do that? We jump to conclusions all the time. I know I do. I was just on the phone today doing that. So I know jumping to conclusions can be something that everybody does. That's why I just brought that topic up, because I want to be a little light on the topic. Again, this is Riding the Wave. This is a big ocean of life. This surfboard that we all are on is our deeds and actions. And that shore is certainly our final destination. So we just want to make it look good getting there. We don't want to do anything out of control. We don't want to do anything that's going to cause more harm than good. Remember, there's a lot of sharks in the water. And also, there's a lot of elements to deal with. And that's just in everyday life. Jumping to conclusions. What do we know? How do we know we're actually jumping to conclusions? That's the question. Because we do it so often. We have to be able to identify it. If we're able to identify it, then we more than likely will be able to control how often we do it. So signs that you do it. What are some signs that you jump to conclusions? Again, if I have any podcasters out there that want to be on my show or would like to have me featured on theirs, please reach out to me. Again, my Facebook is rtw.podcast. Twitter is Glenn_town, and my Gmail is ridingthewave.podcast@gmail.com. Website coming soon. Signs that you jump to conclusions. Do you have an emotional attachment to this conclusion that you're jumping to? It usually requires an action from another party or something like that for you to even jump to conclusions. Is there an emotional attachment to that statement? That can be a good sign that you're jumping to conclusions, because usually things that are fact-based are already accepted. So when they're accepted, it's easier for you to move on. When you have an emotional attachment to something, it's because maybe there's not facts involved that you are privy to, or you don't know the whole story. Why? Because possibly you've jumped to conclusions. So if you feel like an emotional attachment to the statement, it puts you in a defensive space. It puts you into a negative space. It gives you any type of anxiety, any type of worry or concern. That's a good flag that you're actually jumping to conclusions. So that's one thing that you may want to consider. How do you feel when you're making these statements, when you're thinking these statements, etc.? I want to know how you feel. That's usually a good sign. If you don't really feel too much towards it, hey, this is what's happening, then more than likely it's just the truth. But if you have this defensive, the world is coming down on me attitude, or you have that it shouldn't be this way, and you really don't know yet, that's a good sign. Also, another good sign that you know you're jumping to conclusions is if you're finishing a person's statement for them. Usually I would believe that a person knows best what they're going to say. God best, but you certainly would know better than the person that's jumping into your statement. Stop thinking for people. Stop assuming. These are all flags that you're jumping to conclusions. Very easy to identify. We do it every day. Doesn't always cause the eyebrows to crunch down or anything like that. But it does put you in a weird space where it allows more questions to enter in. And once more questions enter in, then you're dealing with more probabilities, less facts. And you know what they say, if opens the door to the devil, right? Because the more ifs that you pose, the more probabilities, the more outcomes that you're promoting. Who knows better than God what's going to happen? Sometimes you just have to prevent yourself from getting into that way of thinking altogether, because jumping to conclusions can lead to a lot of bad things. And I mean, that's a whole nother topic. But just to identify, for the sake of this show, about jumping to conclusions and signs that you do it. You're over talking people. You're not allowing them to finish statements. That's a good sign. It gives you a bad emotional connection to what you're thinking or feeling, or what you're thinking or what you're saying. It gives you a bad emotional connection to it. That's another sign. So, these are just quick ways of knowing that, hey, I'm jumping to conclusions, man. I don't have all the pieces together. Now imagine if you was a person of any type that had to judge a person's fate or something like that, and you were jumping to conclusions. Things aren't always the way they appear. Sometimes the full story doesn't disclose without probing. So only because it looks like a rose doesn't mean it's a rose. You have to probe a little deeper. Does it have thorns? How does is it silky, the petals? That kind of stuff. What element is it growing in? It's a bunch of stuff involved that sometimes we won't even get to because we just automatically think it's a rose. For those just tuning in, this is Glenn T, the Urban Surfer. You're riding the wave. Jumping to conclusions, signs that you do it. Let's name some of the reasons actually why. Why do people jump to conclusions? I'm curious about that. What do you think about that? Any suggestions, questions, comments? You can always reach out to me. Again, my Facebook hold is RTW. .podcast. You can find me there. On Twitter, you can find me Glenn_town. You can always reach out to me. You can always reach out to me at ridingthewave.podcast@gmail.com. For those trying to find my show, certainly on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, YouTube. You can also catch me on Podbean and Spreaker. Website to come. Definitely appreciate the support so far. So we want to just continue on with the topic. What are some of the reasons why you find jumping to conclusions, right? What are some of the reasons why a person would jump to conclusions? Hey, they just know it all. Sometimes a person knows more than you. They know why you're thinking and why you're acting and why you're doing. That could be one reason, right? Some reasons why, that would certainly be one of them. The person knows more than you. They know you better than you know yourself. Other reasons, sometimes a person can see flaws within themselves and they promote them onto you. Quick example, if a person knows that they are insecure, you may hear a person say that you're insecure more than once during these choicy times. They put what's actually happening within them, they put that on you. So this is something that, this is another reason why people jump to conclusions. They think out of their own lenses. Well, let's just say a person looks through their own kaleidoscope, right? A person looks through their own kaleidoscope. These are just all broken images and pieces of stuff that a person captures and try to make sense out of them. Or sometimes it just looks pretty. But either way, you're looking through your own kaleidoscope. So this is why a person jumps to conclusions. They may run into a scenario and they would think this is happening because this is the way I think and feel. So the entire world around me thinks and feels identical to that. Imagine that. That's hard to put up with sometimes. I got to be honest with you. With people in general, don't put your insecurities off on me. Don't put your way of thinking off on me. This is a diverse world. This world goes round with plenty of personalities. This world goes round with plenty of different thoughts, perceptions, just like this show itself, Riding the Wave. These perceptions, again, are my own. This is my reality. This is my perception. These are my opinions. They can hold true with many people or with few, with most or with nearly none. But again, these belong to me. And that's why I say my mission is actually to change one mind a day. And just in a positive way, not a complete overhaul, But just listening to this podcast alone might change somebody's way on jumping to conclusions. Because you might be the person that sees signs in that. Oh wow, I didn't realize I do that. You know, I didn't realize that I get emotionally connected when somebody starts to talk about some stuff that could potentially affect me. Not just just not just taking it as face value, but just like deep rooting that information. Right? That could be one thing, right? Also, just the fact that you prevent a person from speaking. I mean, how rude is that? You're speaking with somebody and then they just overtalk you because they're finishing the sentence that only your brain and God's inspiration has put together. I mean, that's not cool, for lack of better words. You have a lot of know-it-alls out there. People that potentially are well-educated or potentially well-experienced in life, and they just feel that everything that they say or everything that they feel should be chiseled into stone. It's not like that, man. This life is a learning experience for everyone. That's why the rules were here. I don't know anybody personally that was around before the rules, because people are know-it-alls. And if I chose to live the way that you decided, I wonder what the world in general would be like. And vice versa. Imagine if you lived your entire life the way I deemed fit for you to do so. How would this world truly be? That's why we shouldn't jump to conclusions, honestly. I mean, it's just a waste of time. You have to backtrack and circle around, try to figure things out. It's just not a good thing, or not a good experience for anyone. I can understand that you're proud of your level of intellect. I take pride in mine too. But we have to also keep in mind our knowledge compared to God's is like a drop in the bucket or a drop in the ocean. Excuse me. Our knowledge to God's knowledge is like a drop in the ocean if you used to place your pinky finger in that. What you have on your pinky is your knowledge compared to the source you just put your hand in. So regardless of how much pride we have in our knowledge, just know that we know very little, if anything, compared to what's actually happening. But these are one of the reasons why, people jump to conclusions. Just stop in your tracks. You know nothing, accept it, and learn. Just when you think you know something, there's an exception to it, and then you have to relearn the whole process. So sometimes observation is good, just alone. Stop jumping to conclusions. Stop finishing people's sentences. Stop feeling like you know the answers to everything. If you're just riding the wave right now, this is the urban surfer Glenn T. Just getting into jumping to conclusions. We can tell when we're doing it. Maybe we can't. But since it's such a common thing, I mean, if you find yourself finishing people's sentences, if you find yourself getting emotionally attached to what you're saying or thinking without the whole story, these are just signs. These are signs that you're actually doing it. If you just feel rubbed the wrong way and you don't have the full picture yet, you're jumping to conclusions. Sometimes a person feels like they have the full picture. You don't. Because if you did, you'll be less emotional about it. A person that knows they committed murder, when they get caught, they're content. They know they did it. Game's over. No more running. But if a person slaps some cuffs on you and you didn't do it, you'll be yelling and screaming. This is why I know jumping to conclusions. This is, when you know that you have the full picture, you just accept. But when you don't, this is where all the emotions come in. What am I being arrested for? Why are you putting the cuffs on me? What's going on? What's going to happen next? This is this is what happens. So it's no different. And this is why I say, it's ways out there that you can actually prevent this from happening. Stop yourself from jumping to conclusions. I mean, what are some of the ways? Let me hear some of your suggestions, your opinions, your comments. Again, any podcasters out there who want to feature me on their show, would like to be on mine, simply reach out to me, rtw.podcast at my Facebook, Glenn_Towns, my Twitter, ridingthewave.podcast@gmail.com. Also, website coming soon. If you want ways to find me, I'm on iTunes, I'm on Stitcher, I'm on SoundCloud, YouTube, and Podbean. You can also see me on Spreaker. Well, catch me on Spreaker, I apologize. Aside from that, I definitely enjoy my fans. I enjoy the people that listen to me, that support me. Just spread the word. Let people know that Riding the Wave is just something where you could express yourself. You can hear me express myself, giving you just a little bit different outlook if you don't already think the same. You may not agree with me. I'm okay with that as well. But reach out. I always like to hear from you. I don't want to jump to any conclusions, to be honest. But, ways of preventing it. Just know the big picture. Get all the facts. Put all the facts in check. Sometimes things take time, so you have to hold that information. Have you ever had something that you were dying to use, but you couldn't use it? You had to wait for the right time? It's no different with information. You may run into a piece of information that you're dying to place somewhere, but it may not have a place because it belongs to something else before you place it. It'll prevent you from jumping to conclusions. Wait for the whole picture. No matter how bad you want to use that information, it is simply a piece of data. It is not the whole picture. Just stop yourself in your tracks and wait. Also, if you feel yourself getting emotional about things and you don't know the whole picture, I want you to stop also, because emotions cloud a lot of things. If you feel yourself in a negative space where you hear some news, let's just say you hear some news, or you're thinking a thing because you don't know the full big picture, stop jumping to conclusions. There's a lot of stories out there in the world where a person can see or experience something and still not have the full picture. This will prevent you from jumping to conclusions. It's basically a patience thing. You just have to apply patience. Wait for the answers. Ask more questions. The places where you're not clear, instead of assuming, ask. Because if you ask, it's less of a task. But when you assume, you know what happens. We got to learn to just know when to hold and know when to fold. If it's time you feel that you're getting a negative vibe from something, ask that question. Let's be clear about it, because I'm sure we're all adult enough, or we've all experienced enough in this life where we can honestly sit down and take a honest opinion. I'd rather be wrong with a sure foot than be wavering on the truth. I want to know either way, because I pride myself in being sure. I pride myself in having confidence. I pride myself in knowing what I'm saying and know what I'm doing. I commit to my actions. And I hope you do too. So that's why I try to stop myself from jumping to conclusions. Because if I feel myself in a negative space, if I feel that I'm in a negative space about something, I stop myself and ask myself, do I have the big picture? What's happening right now? When did it start? You may be missing a couple of factors and maybe on an emotional roller coaster right now that you're ready to take everybody else on. Do yourself a favor and stop in your tracks. There is no need to put yourself on an emotional roller coaster, nor to have any fans on that same ride with you. Life is about riding the wave, being cool, being smooth about things. Jumping to conclusions is the exact opposite. So we just really want to take into consideration ways to prevent jumping to conclusions. Find that bigger picture. Ask more questions. Take time. Take that information and put it away for now, because you never know when you're going to need it. Not everything has a space for you right away just because you're receiving it now. Sometimes things remain in limbo until they're understood, where you can actually use them and they're most effective. Again, I just want to thank you for riding the wave with me. This is the Urban Surfer Glenn T. All my support, all my fans out there, continue doing a good job. Again, these opinions are my own. These are my perceptions, my realities. My mission is only to change one mind a day in a positive way. If I've done so, I've done a great job. Otherwise, it's back to the drawing board. And I just love podcasting enough that it will be back to the drawing board. Thank you for riding the wave. Be safe in your travels. I hope you had a happy holidays. Let's look forward to 2019. We are right around the corner. Make those plans in advance. Put yourself in a space where you're ahead of the curve and not just meeting the bar. You guys take care until the next time. Again, it's the Urban Surfer Glenn T. You be well, be safe, and be smooth.